Alright, that says that I'm going. So... I forgot. Ah, there we go. Okay. Ha, oh. Ah, that'll be an annoying thing. Get little squeaky notifications on my phone because I have to have my phone today. Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Dragon Mun, and this is my Twitch stream. I'm trying to remember my own format, and I'm succeeding. Some. Let me... Having a day. Sorry about that. Alright, well, I guess to... Oh, hello, Whisperfire. I see you. Yay. It felt like no time at all has passed since I was doing this last week. It's kind of crazy. But a whole lot of stuff has happened. But first, I think I'm going to catch up with something from last week, or the start of the stream last week, which is I figured out, I think, what that weird, horrible screeching sound was that interrupted all my brainwaves. So there's a neighborhood under construction in our neighborhood, like just down the street. And they laid the foundation down and did some garden work, and that was kind of all that they were doing for a while. But the trucks are back, and one truck in particular just has these awful, awful air brakes. And so it must have just been flying through here for some reason at 8 o'clock at night, and it just hit those air brakes. The only reason that I think that that's what it is, or was, is because it sounded pretty close. Not exactly the same, but, you know, when I heard it, or when I heard and saw the truck, it was close enough. I was outside, as opposed to inside, like last week. So, yeah, that's what that was. As for house and construction things, I guess I'm in the process of attempting to purchase yet another one. As you know, our first attempt at purchasing a house fell through, and because that one was awful, and the inspection showed that it was only meant to be demolished. And today's inspection on this new place turned out that there's no surprises. The house is in good condition for the most part. There's one major repair and one minor repair that we need to do, or one major repair and two minor whatever. But it's all good. So that maybe by the end of summer I'll have a place of my own. Yay! So that's exciting news. Yes. Hi, Russell. It's not as bad as a handyman special. It's I guess a fixer-upper is probably the best word for it. Yeah. The brain quit. Yeah, no, like a handyman special is if you are like in construction and can rebuild a house, then yeah, you can get as low as possible and flip it. And yeah. Mind holding on a moment, guys? My lips are chapped as heck, and it kind of hurts. So I'm gonna put on some chapstick. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I have no idea why they're so chapped. It was like, yeah, it's not even winter and it's raining. I don't know. But yeah, no, like they're splitting and they're just maybe the air conditioning is just too strong here. Whatever. Another thing that I am looking forward to not having to deal with. Okay, so get my phone back up. Okay, a few things to talk about. For you, Russell, this is just gonna be repeat. And where am I? Yeah, here we go. Look, I found my virtual house. Haha, I remembered. I got rid of the drawing table thing here because they just never added the functionality that I wanted to it. So, yeah, a couple things. Let's open that up here. No! Okay. What did I do? There we go. All right. So, if you look on the right there, that's the book I did a cover of. It's out finally! Yay! And then I got my samples of the Shivoa teas that I mentioned. Not t-shirts, actual tea, like, you know, you can brew it. Both of these tins here in the lower, you know, on the left there, they both smell like cookies. Like specifically snickerdoodles, and I made one yesterday. I made Flag's tea yesterday because that's what the dice roll said, and it was just too hot for a hot tea, so I ended up making a nice latte out of it, and it was freaking delicious. So kudos Adagio Teas for making that. Yeah. Let's see. I think I shared this picture a little while back. If it loads. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, I can't make it any bigger here. That was one of my Patreon pictures. And so, gosh, I think from 2 or 3 months ago. I can't do the math right now. So close that out. But then I did this one afterwards. Why did that open in a browser and not a preview? That was weird. Okay, it opened in the browser again. And I still can't shrink it. So here, big picture. Whatever. Okay. This one is so long it should load fine. I am super proud of this one, y'all. Because I basically wanted to do a fake panorama, and I succeeded. Yeah. It took me forever. And yeah, so that was last month's image. This month's image went up yesterday, and I will be posting next month's sketch, well, I guess this month's sketch, but next month's image, or sketch, tomorrow, or next Tuesday, sorry. Blah. I can remember my own schedule. Cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, going back to the books and the tea here, I have the links. So, show it off a little bit better. Yeah. Oh, it looks like he only has the Kindle version. That's interesting because, as you saw, I had the physical book. So maybe it's a pre-order situation right now. Get my planner from last week. Yeah, kind of. I'm following the planner. My brain just doesn't register everything like it should. Thank you. I like the cover too. And this one is the tease, which all of these are linked on the archive page for today. So, and they come in these cute little tins. Ah! Oh, that's cool. It tells me which ones I bought. Yay. So, cool. Yeah. I understood you meant the cover. It's alright. I initially read 2-color and I almost responded with, yeah, I like the color too. But show you again where my brain is today. Kind of off and stuck on the fact that I might have a house. And the lady, like, this is a weird situation where the owner's actually still in it. And she's adorable. And she's giving us, like, just so much stuff. Like, all her appliances. For some reason, she's not taking a single one of them with her. Yeah. and she keeps trying to give us one of her dogs because apartment living, which is what she wants to do, won't allow her to bring 3 dogs. And I won't lie, the Chowinis are adorable, but right now I don't think that our having a dog is a good idea. Yeah, so where in the world am I trying to go? There we go, world building, which is what you guys voted on today. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And I specifically picked this hilarious outdoor environment for the topic. And every time I use this outdoor environment, I promised my daughter I would include these giant bananas. So, behold, bananas. I'm going to go over here and try to break the water. Oh no, the water's not breaking. Nah! Okay, I guess they fixed that. So, Chowini. Is that a mix of a Chihuahua and a Dachshund? Yes, it is. And it is possibly the most adorable combination of dog I've ever seen. So, you guys can look it up in Google. There's so many, and they're so cute. And they look like permanent puppies, which is like one of the best things about them. But okay, so that's world building for literature. I want to go over here to art. So I mentioned last week that world building in art or illustration and world building in literature is different but similar. They kind of go hand in hand. Like both will, how to say, yeah, really, my brain is off today. Okay, so world building. World building is a concept that's not unique to a specific genre, but it is unique to the creative minds of, all around the world. You can have, when you create a setting or a piece, you don't just, any creative will tell you that you don't just, think, oh, it's, there's this image, that's it, the end. Or, oh, there's this, setting in the story, that's it, the end. It's a lot. I have to remember that this is going to turn off. There's more to it. We're always thinking about something going on, behind the scenes and all that. And it's where, like, the interesting things of stories, come from. And artwork's a lot the same. When it comes to world building with art, it's referencing essentially the environment, where the characters are. Let me see if it'll pull up this picture here. Yeah, there we go. Like, I could have drawn just the characters, nuzzling against each other like that, but it's not, that would be kind of boring. That you would have your characters, but you wouldn't know anything about them. by putting them in this, rooftop kind of desert-ish looking, you can tell that it's a warm, dry climate from the colors used and stuff. It's, the concept of world building is so wide scope that I honestly wouldn't know where to begin. And actually, I'm glad that you said that, because beginning is not, like, world building is not where you're supposed to begin, in my opinion. People can argue with that, but I always, like, with art, with stories, world building comes along, after, or how to say, it comes with the concept. It's almost a side effect of, drawing, of creating characters, of things. Character development first. Not necessarily, but for a lot of people, that's kind of where it goes. For me, I did come up with, the characters first. And I wanted to see, like, I wanted them in environments that, weren't my own. So I ended up making them up. And that was the very start of world building for me. So, like, I wanted a magical desert, so I did. I made a magical desert. Or in this case here, I really like libraries, so I created this gigantic, super weird spiral library because I just really like those pictures of spiral staircases in libraries, or, spiral staircases that have books in the staircases as bookshelves and stuff. It's, it was fun. But when it comes to the imagery, it's almost like the backgrounds. When I started doing this as a comic, okay, well, let's pose it this way. If you look at manga, manga is notorious for this, but if you look at manga, you'll see that there's really only hints of backgrounds a lot of times, especially with like fan-made comics. I've had people tell me that they don't know how to do backgrounds, so they just don't. And while, you can make your characters interact, they interact with the story, yes, but you don't really know where they are or who they are because, the scenery's gone. And so really that's, in illustration, that's what world building is. It's the scenery. And hello, the white elk. Okay. It's okay. You're allowed to be late. I'm sort of bungling through this anyways because my catch up, I might actually succeed in getting this house. So yay! I'll catch you up on that one later. Right now I'm trying to just explain world building as a side effect for, well, world building really is kind of just a side effect of story. And yes, I am definitely in need of coffee. But yeah, and it's not unique to a specific setting. Like for Shivoa, yes, I wanted to create my own fantasy world. So when I draw the characters, I actually have an environment that I'm, or different environments that I'm putting them in. And for illustration, that's what that is. It's the environments you're putting your characters in. Or even just the environments themselves can be, considered like characters. I'm just going to go right into over here with Bruce. My friend Bruce is probably one of the best world builders I've ever seen. Because, like, we have this. This is amazing. You can tell immediately you can tell it's a fantasy planet with, very lush fantasy planet. interesting, strange structure here. It kind of looks like it's made out of the remnants of a crashed ship or something, and voila, there we are. All of a sudden, we have a whole world to look at. So for, it's in the illustration here, it's right there. So for, how to say, if, to build this up, he obviously, went with the mountains, the unique structure, which spells out maybe a science fiction aspect of it. These flowers really lend to it. It's just all these little things put together, spell out that there's this unique, amazing world there. And so that's, I guess, what I'm trying to get at is that for illustration, world building really is the environments, can be, the individual rooms. It's not like, oh, look how cool that one is. But it's not extraordinarily defined, except for, visually. And I when it comes to like doing, world building or visual world building for comics, you would put stuff like, maybe not to this degree, but at least in simple environments in with the characters so that you can open up and expand the worlds. So that's good. And I want to show you my friend Seth's here too. This one, he worked on Snowpiercer. He actually designed the interiors for the train, particularly, in season 2 here. I think he was like an assistant season 1 and then just got to take over in season 2, which is great. And Snowpiercer, if you don't know the premise, is basically an entire post-apocalyptic setting where there's this train that has, basically has most of civilization on it, if not all. And every car is, different and unique, and, that's their environment, that's their world. So while, the stories, take place, you have the characters doing their thing on the train. I don't know too much of it because I didn't actually get to see any of it, but I know the premise enough to understand that there's kind of like a civil war going on. And so while that's, the story and the characters are unique and interesting, they've got this, train that they've got to live on. And this right here, this is a picture. Can I turn this sideways and get the effect? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Like, that's actually a painting that's in one of the cars. Let's see. And then, yeah, he did the background here, too. So, again, visually, or for art and illustration, world building is literally the environments. So, and I it's exciting and cool and, not characters in cool poses necessarily. I'm bringing that up because it's very, very easy to get stuck drawing characters in cool poses. I see a question. Over the years of illustrating Shavoa, did you ever make a collection of reference drawings of locations to remind yourself of what's what as you continue to develop, for lack of a better word? Yeah. Kind of. And then this is funny, because for the comic, I did not. I would fill the backgrounds in and basically made it up as I went. For the novel, I did a whole lot more. Because for the novel, I referenced things that I never thought that I would pull up in the comic. because, you know, it's like the characters' thoughts and the reasons why they do some things. Like with the comics, I can kind of just visually spell it out, them interacting with their environment. Whereas with the novel, I sort of had to foreshadow every little interaction they had with the environment. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we'll go, you know, we'll use that as a segue to the world building for literature. Because while the illustration side is, you know, the environments and maybe, you know, what the characters are wearing, what the characters look like, but, you know, and how they interact with their environment, world building for novels is a whole lot more intense. Like, let's see if, like I found this really nice article from Reedsy that talked a bit about it, and I like how it previewed that, but it wouldn't let me preview the one picture. You remember that? That's funny. So, yeah, contents. Planning your world. Does your story take place in our world? And that's a good point, because even though, you know, like, our world is already defined to us, it's not necessarily defined to how the character in the story interacts with that world. So, like, you can have fantasy London, or you can even have, you know, very realistic London that's very different from our perspective of it, because, you know, one, I've never been, so my interpretation of London is already pure fantasy. Yeah, building your own histories, developing believable cultures. How much science should go into science fiction? Yeah, because I will say I tune right the F out if there's just too much technical jargon. Magic systems. Yes. I'm going to harp on that one a little bit. And then, oh, cool, they provide us a template. Yay. So, world building with novels, and I suppose this could be comics and, you know, otherwise too, is a interesting process, because, like, just like with the images, you can kind of just start with a character sketch, and, you know, immediately you start asking yourself questions about the character. It's like, where were they born? You know, why are they interesting? What would they like? You know, what's their favorite food? What are their weaknesses? What are their, you know, you can go on forever. And in the process of just answering these questions about this character, you wind up, you know, expanding out and coming up with just so much more. And again, it's kind of a easy rabbit hole to get stuck in. So my advice in general is to work out the story and make notes about the world as you're working that story out. And the reason I wanted to harp on magic systems a little bit is because I knew when I created Dragonera that I wanted her as a magic user, but I also wanted her to be exceptional somehow. So I ended up thinking about, like, how magic worked on Shavoa, and ended up coming up with, you know, a really weird balances, you know, setting. So, but yeah, and then I had that, you know, hard rule in place for everyone else, which was great, because, you know, there she is, she's the exception, and it ends up kind of, you know, it obviously impacts the story later on when you find out, like, why she's the exception, and that's so cool. Brandon Sanderson, I bring him up you know, I wanted to bring him up here specifically because he came up with, well, that's his thing, actually. He seems to just come up with, like, magic systems for all of his settings, and they're unique, and they work, and they're a lot of fun. And same thing. His main character, Rin, she's kind of an exception to the rules for the magic system, and understanding why, it makes it just badass. um, yeah. Now, Dune, I wanted to put Dune here because Dune is an interesting. Like, Dune's setting is phenomenal. I love the universe that Frank Herbert created. The aliens and the things that Frank Herbert created are just so unique and freaking weird. um, and but he goes. He even came up with kind of, not a well, I guess it is a magic setting of its own. But like, he kind of hammers, and one of the things that, like, the Reedsy article sort of advises against is getting stuck in the details and using exposition to explain away everything. And the way that he tells his story, it seems like he very obviously came up with the setting first. Like, he got stuck in world building. Like, ooh, wouldn't a desert planet be cool? Oh, but we don't want to do, other desert planets did. So we need to come up with some reason why this is unique. We'll come up with spice. There we go. Okay, so this planet is unique because of spice. All right. And then he just kind of goes on and on and on and on. And when it comes to why, like, he does have a situation where his character is also an exception to the things, but it's a hard slog to deal with. So it's I can't even fault the man, because, like, he's obviously, super successful, and the story, everybody loves, like, the Litany Against Fear, which is a setting piece, and, all the other setting pieces. It's just that the story is really kind of hard to handle because he's explaining so much that, like, it just sort of gets lost. And that's why I would recommend, again, when it comes to world building, start with your character, start with your story, and expand outward. Take your notes, keep it, on hand, but you really do not have to go into the details of, how the public school system on one continent works. You do not need to go and get stuck on, currency. Unless you're writing, some sort of fiction that, like, goes and explains cryptocurrency. I don't know. Most of the time, that it's a detail that you can just skip over. People understand money already. That's fine. Now, this one, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, this woman is a friggin' genius at showcasing and building her worlds as the story goes. Because literally every single scene in this book is treated like a slice of life, character interaction. And she has them reacting to their environments, and through those reactions to, each other and the environments, the story progresses. It's I can't even. I'm so impressed, because she came up with, she didn't even make up a new language. She just explained that there's a lot of languages, and there's the quite a few character interactions. Like, the first character you meet, she actually was hired onto the ship because she spoke a alien language that used hand signs as part of it. So and that came in, like, as a huge sort of plot thing later. And I'll, it's just a world building, just great handling of world building. And I didn't, it would have been so easy for her to get stuck like Frank Herbert did in explaining away, the setting at the risk of the story. But she did exactly the opposite. She built the world just through the story, and that's kind of, how you would want to do things. Where I was going with this, I don't really know. Actually, on Patreon, I thank you for this, April. I was challenged by April to do character bios for some of the characters in Shavoa, and I as I was writing the character bios, I ended up fleshing out more of the world, things that I didn't know that I knew how to say, because I made it up on the spot, but it was just right. And so, like, Tom and his multitude of sisters, and how he had to, like, hide from sorcerers, and why. So, like, that was all, again, more stuff that I added, to the world. But while I could... I didn't, like, with Shavoa, I made everything as I went. That's really the best way I can explain it. And I keep my notes as I go so that I have them for the future. One interesting, weird thing is, in terms of visual, when it came to the novel, for some whacked out reason, I needed to know the dimensions of where everything, or like the directions of where everything is. So I ended up making maps. And now I completely understand why maps are included in fantasy novels and such. It may not necessarily be for the reader. It may not be, a required world building flourish, because there's plenty of fantasy novels that don't have their maps there. But for the author, it makes sense. Because, like, I needed to know, what lay, southeast of Libris del Sol, for example. I needed to know what was north. It even came down to, like, the city itself. Like, I ended up drawing out the castle and, roughly where the village was, so that I had that in relations to, where the characters were interacting and working with things. So, like, I know that the... if you're standing at the front of the library tower, the village is left. That's what it is in my brain. The village is left. So even it's not, specific, east, or actually I guess it is. But yeah, that helped me out a lot. Other things. I had to, one of the things so in the process of coming up with, what the characters are doing, I mentioned, like, it's even on the back cover, I mentioned that there's an insurgency. So I need to find out, like, why is there an insurgency? And how do they get around it? Or, how do they pull off their shit? So I made this impenetrable fortress, kind of unintentionally, but, they needed to have a challenge. So when I went and made the impenetrable fortress, I needed to figure out, oh crap, how to, get into it. So after a lot of thinking, I determined it was the waterworks. And why the frick would a village in the middle of the desert have, a waterworks system? So I had to go and figure that out too. Which ended up creating kind of a mythology that worked around with the magic setting and, the reason that my character's an exception to the rules. So it's interesting that, just because I went or how to say, I took notes as I went and I built as I went, as opposed to getting stuck in the creation hole. It all came together, which was cool. Okay. I'm gonna come here. I don't know why. I guess I don't know if the chat's still working, but because you guys are all quiet. But all I'm going back to is like, oh, I need that cup of coffee, which is funny because now I'm thinking about, like, that made me think about The Expanse. Like, seriously, there are some minor world building plot points in that setting that orient just around coffee. It's adorable. So, yay. I've been listening. You've been explaining concepts that is flat out abstract to me, and it's making my brain go goo. I find that interesting because I remember way back when you and I definitely came up with a whole lot of backstory stuff for Final Fantasy VII. And you came up with, a lot of unique setting stuff there. Yes, it was, based on, an existing property. But again, you made up, God, I think you made up a mansion if I remember correctly. And, just a whole bunch of different things there. It is an abstract concept, but it's one you do unconsciously. Like, you do it without even realizing that you do it. And being aware of doing it so that you can take notes is really what world building is, I guess. So, fanfic is a wonderful practice for that. Because, yes, you have a setting that exists already, but like I mentioned with London earlier, it's your interpretation of the setting will lead to new things that, maybe other people didn't think of. Well, hell, I don't think anyone knew how, materia affixed to things, so people made that up. And I would consider, the mechanics of, holes in the swords or, pouches that along the wrist or belt items, that would be considered world building because it's kind of a problem solving for something that, you came up with. And I guess maybe that's what I would explain world building as ultimately, is problem solving for a thing you made up. And that goes with I'm just puttering around here. Let me go ahead and get back to the chat screen. I remember mentioning something that potions had flavors and it tasted kind of like chalky medicine. Yeah, see, and that's not something that was, defined previously. So if you, that on a very, very small level would still technically count as world building. So, yeah, that idea came out of nowhere. Many of these ideas seem to, well, hell, I come up with characters completely on the fly because I will be looking at, street signs. Literally, one of the major characters, who has yet to make an appearance in what I've posted on Patreon. Her name's Kendall, and it was all because there's a street, and I was like, okay, well, let's work on that. So, yeah, I won't go into spoilers with her, but that's literally I've doodled, figures before and added, fashion elements to them, and then suddenly it was just like, well, why would they be wearing this? And so, like, boots. Okay, they hike, probably, if that's why they're wearing boots. So what kind of environment would they need to hike in? Well, there's plenty of environments to hike in. So you have jungles, you have rocky terrain, you have forests, just whatever. So automatically there's that. And then the other accessories, if I drew them with a sword, I'm like, okay, well, sword, that's kind of like a machete, so maybe it is jungle. That's just, it keeps going from there. And that really is kind of the extent of, that's the safe zone for world building. I would say that's, getting those basic things as you go, really, is what will help you push your story and your illustrations along. Because you can very, very easily get stuck on that train of thought, which is funny because I guess Snowpiercer is technically a train of thought in this regard. It's really easy to get stuck on that train of thought, and then you can just be sitting there in your head, just, vibing with your setting forever and not actually producing anything. And that doesn't help you if you're actually trying to get something out. It is a great way to just, kill an afternoon. But if you're writing a story that you want others to see, you kind of have to learn where to stop with world building. So, like I said, and then, you can problem solve, to get, like, if you want to go in deeper, you can do that during the problem solving stage. That's fine. But gosh, with that jungle scenario that that I mentioned because of boots, that can go all the way down the line of, it's an explorer whose plane crashed, and then, like, I have to go and figure out, is this a normal plane or is this a science fiction plane, or some, like a jet or a spaceship? And knowing me, I would go spaceship, and then all of a sudden I'm trying to figure out, a galactic civilization, and I need to stop because I have other things that I need to work on for that story. So, yeah. Gotta be careful, because world building's definitely, like those task pages in the planners, world building can have its own little micro traps. So, they're cool. They're cool to think on. Sometimes you just have to make a quick note, and then that's it. But yeah. You can I guess, to try to tie them all together, with Shavoa, I didn't do those illustrations that I've been posting on Patreon until after I had actually written the book. And it's the same with the, current chapters that I'm doing. The chapters are first. The illustrations came afterwards. And, like, the illustrations do go hand in hand with what I wrote. I have the setting in the book, and I may vaguely describe it. I don't really hammer it out, but it's enough. I've had people who've, before I ever drew the library, tell me that they want to see the library, and all I do is just, mention, Dragonira's experience in it, as she, the first time. She's never been to it before, so I got to write, the description of her going to it, which, the library was a setting that I had in my head, forever and ever before ever actually writing it. Because, like I said, I, wanted to kind of pay an homage to all the cool spiral staircase library things that I've ever seen. And so, like, my descriptions, I kind of built, like, while I had the idea in my head, I really fleshed it out as I wrote, And then when it came to the picture later, I got to add more of the little details that my frugal use of words covered. So that's a nice, complete sensory package for everyone, I guess. And that's the way to put it. So, that's world, the extra little details and just the visuals for it itself would be the, the world building for the illustration, the vague words that carried the idea across to everyone else would be the world building for the novel. And then there's the world building trap that I fell into when I initially made it up all those years ago. So, the best way I could say to world build it, like if it's a priority, is to just go with the story first and take notes. So, yay. And I appreciate that you all sat through my coffee deprived ramblings here. I am definitely gonna go and get a cup of coffee after this, which actually might make no sense because I should go actually to sleep tonight. Cool. So, yay. I actually, before we go, I don't know if you guys were watching the stream as much as just sitting and listening, but have you noticed that the feed runs a little better, smoother? Because I did get together with Daniel after last week, and he helped me figure out some settings for OBS to try to smooth that out, work around my crappy internet. So I still think my avatar is a little broken, but that's actually probably my fault because I didn't specify a bunch of parameters in the virtual VTube Studio. I didn't specify some parameters there. So feed is running better. No drop screens or lost audio. Oh, awesome. Yay. So, okay, cool. The next thing I need to figure out is where the parameters on this avatar. Yeah. Stream buffered a few times, but it was okay. Ah, gotcha. Okay. That's... I wonder... Yeah, that would be on my end, wouldn't it? That's also probably still my internet. Got it. Okay. Well, cool. Alright. Glad that the new settings work. Awesome. I still haven't been able to get the poll thing working again. That's another thing. So I'm open to topics for next week, although I may... I actually might earmark next week for just random rambling. Because I'll be coming back from a book show. Oh, yeah, I have a book show this weekend. Tampa Indie Author Book Convention is happening on Saturday in Tampa. That I'm excited about that because that's a bunch of industry stuff, and I like hearing about industry stuff. It'll be interesting to see like what's changed on that regard after COVID. So yeah. And if there's anything cool, I'll definitely bring it up. Yeah, definite ramble episode. So, okay. Yeah. And then afterwards, I guess we can, figure out what the next topic could be. So, alright, cool. Yay. Alright, well, yeah, we're at time. So, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for sitting in and, like, tolerating me just rambling. Hey, I tried to stay on topic. Woohoo! Alright, cool. Catch you all later. Bye!